track at the wall. We are tied. Look at this. He's landing. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Dropping a big leg. Over for the cover. He got it. Unbelievable. High fly ball into right field. She is gone. Awesome. He got it. The starter. Mike Tyson in. Austin is the champion. Stone Cold. Stone Cold. Stone Cold. Now the 2-2. Well hit down the left field line. Way back in. Touch a ball, Drew. You'll never hit a bigger home run in your life. He put that on the wall. No. Don't do it. Oh my God, no! Mankind did it! Nick Foley did it! No! Stone Cold did it! Mankind has achieved his dream and the dream of everyone else who's been told you can't do it! No! You can't do it! You can't do it! No matter what, got money on my mind, I can never get enough. And every time I step up in the building, everybody hands go up.
Official theme song of WWE WAR, tribute to our man Test, one of our favorites from seasons gone by. And here on WWE WAR on the North South Connection Podcast Network, it's the nerdiest program you can check out. It's available on YouTube via video or video via YouTube and audio via any podcast application. Like most of our content is simulcast. We do have some video only exclusive and some audio only though. So subscribe to both. You'll never miss a beat here on North South Connection. I'm JT. Marcus, how are you?
Good, man. Down bad. Yankees are not very good. Very sad about it. But here to talk about Summerslam.
Down there with greatest Royal Rumble for sure. Anyway, big night ahead. Here on this show, we are reviewing every WWE pay-per-view / network special / premium live event in seasonal format, which means we pick a random season and we go through it. What is a season? Well, it starts with the first pay-per-view following WrestleMania, ends with WrestleMania the following calendar year. So we're doing the 2018-19 pay-per-view calendar. That means we started with Greatest Royal Rumble 2018, was in April. We closed with WrestleMania 35 in April of 2019. And of course, we're only doing WWE. We do NXT as its own seasons. We've been chugging along through these seasons, and we're closing in on almost 100 pay-per-views watched, which is exciting. We're getting there, buddy. We're 51 episodes in. We watch each of these and grade them on a series of metrics that are based on a plus-minus system. So we look at everything in a baseball mentality of a replacement level. So average match, average commentary, average crowd, average moments, everything's flat, 0. Match grade 2.5, as average it can be. For things that we like that are above average, we give a plus. If we think something's below average, we give it a minus. We do that in a bunch of categories. We net it all out. We take our match grades, combine those, take that over or below a 2.5 as well for that average match score. Tie it all up, net it out, and that's our final WAR score for every pay-per-view. Then we stack rank every show ever to see what is the greatest pay-per-view of all time and the worst, and then everything in the middle based on our metric system, Marcus. What are those categories that we rank these shows on?
We start off with build, commentary, atmosphere, notable moments and importance, our match grades like you just talked about, the card structure, rewatchability, and all-time matches. And an all-time match for us to be a plus is anything we both agree is 4.25 and above. For it to be a minus, it is something we both agree is 0.75 and below.
And shockingly enough, in a year that you would think would have some bangers, we haven't had an all-time great, I don't believe yet. So It's like, I mean, this is a season you'd think would be littered with awesome matches. But so far, it's been not many great matches, some very good matches, not a lot of big moments. You know, Money in the Bank did well based on the atmosphere in Chicago and some of the moments, but otherwise, not much doing. But tonight we're going to go ahead and start with what has traditionally been a very strong show for us here on the WAR program, Marcus. SummerSlam. Our top 10 to 15 is littered with SummerSlams. We had SummerSlam 99 was our top show forever. SummerSlam 01 is our second show. 92 and 99 are tied for third. 2015 is top 7. So, I mean, of our top 7 shows, we have 4 SummerSlams. So we like our SummerSlams. We'll see if this one can be in that stratosphere, or will it fall short? SummerSlam took place this year from the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, New York, August 19th. I was not in attendance, but I did go to TakeOver the night before. I didn't stay for the pay-per-view, though. Had to drive back because I had a work meeting. Michael Cole and Jonathan Coachman are in the booth for Ross. Phillips and Saxton in the booth for SmackDown. Corey Graves still bouncing back between both. We also had a 205 live match tonight, which we'll talk about. Byron Saxton, Vic Joseph, and Nigel McGuinness. Talk about those, and that occurred in our pre-show. And Cedric Alexander defeated Drew Gulak to retain the Cruiserweight title. Also on the pre-show, saw Andrade Almas and Zelina Vega defeat Lana and Rusev in a mixed tag. And our boys, the B team, defeated the Revival. Dash and Paulson.
Wow.
Crazy enough, in 6 minutes to retain the tag titles. I wonder why they left. All right, let's get to the actual show itself now. Our opening match, this episode of SummerSlam, Seth Rollins regains the Intercontinental title from Dolph Ziggler. In our opener, they get 22 minutes, I should say. So it's not an Iron Man, and only goes 8 minutes shorter than what we had to close out our last show. And I was disappointed again, Marcus. I went 3 stars. What is in the freaking water in this season with 2018? This year of 2018, like we're gonna do this like we did it on every show. Look at the matches on paper on this card as we go through them, and you tell me why there's no number that begins with a 4 in any of our grades. No spoiler. No match breaks 375 for us on this night, either of us. Like, what are we doing when you look at these matches? What is the struggle? What is it? Why is
we're firmly
Seth Rollins, Dolph Ziggler? Why is that a 3?
We're firmly in the content era. We're in the bloated content era, and no matter how good an event may be or a matchup might look on paper, there is another one 2, 3, 4 weeks later, and a lot of times it's the same exact pairings. So by the time you do get to a blow off, it's past the point of it needing to be blown off, and it just falls flat. And now flat might be a 3.25 or maybe even 3 3/4, but it's not what it should be for a lot of these matches. It's not 4. It's not 4 1/4. Stuff that we've seen in other seasons. Just everything overstays its welcome.
Yeah, I think we're seeing the floor is high, right? Like we're not getting too many below 2.5. 2 and 3, unless it's like the squash type stuff, right? Most of the matches you would think to be good, or at least a 3. So the floor has been risen, but the ceiling is very constricting during this year so far, for sure. So disappointing to start off the show.
I think another thing to mention is I went 3.25 on this match. You mentioned it by going to the TakeOver the night before. We're firmly in the TakeOver era where a lot of these big events are being preceded by TakeOver the night before. And I know a big talking point was, well, TakeOver blew the pay-per-view out of the water
all the time.
So yeah, it just felt like the pay-per-views are always holding something back because they have TV the next night. Whereas NXT, you're going to see 6 to 8 of those acts on TV, and then you won't see the the other half of the card till the next week on TV. So yeah, we're just 2 different worlds, but the content era I think is really hurting the match quality from really exceeding that higher ceiling. We'll move on to the SmackDown Tag Team titles in our second contest of the card proper, as the New Day win the titles from the Bludgeon Brothers. I went 3 1/4. Pretty good match, a little bit forgotten.
No, they didn't win the belts. It was a
they didn't win the belts. Excuse me. Okay, they did win the match.
They used the mallet.
That's right. There's the mallet, and yeah, there is a big to do about that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I went 3 1/4 on this match. A little bit of a forgotten. I wouldn't say gem is necessarily the right word, but when you're doing our projects like you and Aaron did, going down the all-time SummerSlam match card on No Holds Barred, like this is one of those matches you can kind of pull and be like, this is a pretty good title match.
Yeah, I went 3.5. I liked it a decent amount. I wish I had a better finish. I think if it built to a hot finish and a title change, it could have been maybe that hidden gem that we've been looking for. I like both these teams a lot. So yeah, it hit for me. The finish is kind of weak with the mallet. So the bludgeons retain. Next up, Braun Strowman retained his Money in the Bank briefcase yet again, defeating Kevin Owens. Not much. He ends up hitting a power slam. He choke slams him on the ramp, and then it's a power slam and retains. I mean, this is the time too. We're expecting Owens, like, all right, this guy's going to be maybe getting close to being out the door. It feels like he's kind of on borrowed time for a couple of years before they rejuvenate him. But this feud has been terrible. Everything about it's not been fun. I just went 2 for this. I'm ready for this all to be done.
Yeah, I went 2.5 just because Owens is bumping like a madman here to try to get Strowman more over and make himself stand out on the show. I don't think if outside of those big bumps, I would have went 2.5 on this. Next up, we do get I think a pretty big contest. It is for the SmackDown Women's Championship, and it is a triple threat match as Carmella looks to defend against Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair. And Charlotte is going to pick up the win and title win 5, maybe. I don't know or have that info off the top of my head.
6.
6, okay.
She broke Trisha's record.
Okay. I went 3 3/4. I really like this match a lot. I think even flirted going 4 on it. But yeah, really good stuff. And I think this is the best match, at least for me, that we've seen so far during the season. I really like this.
Oh, that's a good statement. So I went 3.5, which puts it pretty high. It's below the Styles Nakamura best stuff, but yeah, it's probably up there after that. It was very good. Becky is catching fire here with the crowd as being the underdog. Her story's been really good about keep coming up short. She finally snaps, beats the shit out of Charlotte after the match. It's a pretty famous moment where she kicks off her heel turn that will begin with, the beginning of her becoming a megastar as the man, right? So that
heel turn, yeah.
This is the kickoff. Yeah, the crowd cheers the whole thing. But this is the kickoff of that turn. It gets ratcheted up in a few months, but this is really like the beginning of the big push for Becky to get her career really off the ground finally. So 3.5 for me. Up next is the beginning of another feud you would expect to be a great one. AJ Styles in a multi-pay-per-view feud for the world title with Samoa Joe. You're like, fuck yeah, here we go. Bring me back to TNA 05. Samoa Joe getting world title matches at SummerSlam. Like, let's go. Yeah, it was like the Nakamura all over again. I went 3.25. I'm like, what are we doing? These are 2 of the all-time greats. Why is this not hitting? And of course, it's because we have a stupid story where Joe is obsessed over taunting AJ's wife and child and trying to play mind games, and he taunts them, and Styles ends up snapping and gets DQ'd. So it's like another stupid finish here tonight on the show. Super disappointing, and this feud's gonna roll on. We'll see if it gets any better, but as of right now, it's like, come on, we're gonna be right back where we were at the Nakamura stuff, and not as good. Like I had this lower than most of that.
You've got at least 4 episodes of SmackDown. You've got countless hours of TV time. You can't have AJ Styles snap anywhere else other than the actual pay-per-view match. Again,
and SummerSlam. Again, if it's Extreme Rules or Unforgiven or whatever, it's fine. But like SummerSlam shouldn't have that finish. You know what I mean? Yeah. I know, and the problem is they're starting a feud at SummerSlam, right? Like they're starting Styles and Samoa Joe at SummerSlam. Like SummerSlam should be the blow off of the feud, like, and then kick off the next one.
And it's our second DQ finish of the night.
Exactly.
So I went 3. Again, I feel like that's got to be about the floor of what these guys can go out there and deliver. So we'll see if they can do anything better as they get more chances to deliver on that. Next up is a personal blood feud rivalry as The Miz takes on Bryan Danielson. I feel like finally maybe here we go with Danielson. Like maybe we're getting a match of substance. These two have like the long history that they actually played off of, which is really cool. Going back to the original version of NXT with the pros and the rookies. They incorporated the Talking Smack promo where Mike the Miz went complete God mode and delivered an all-time classic WWE promo on Danielson there. Excuse me, on Daniel Bryan. I love the finish to this match. where Maurice keeps the brass knucks in the cookie jar. It is so well executed and well done. I went 3.5 on this match. I think if they went just a little bit shorter, it would have benefited. But again, you can say that about a lot of matches on this card.
Yeah, I mean, they go 24 minutes. It's the longest match on the show, which is crazy. But I remember at the time, everyone again was like, "Oh, Danny Bryan and The Miz. Like, why are we doing dream matches?" Because there was a loud contingent that wanted him to leave. Right? They wanted him to not go back to re-sign to WWE. His contract ran out. He was active. Go to New Japan. Go to Ring of Honor. Do dream matches. What are you doing? And here he is with The Miz at SummerSlam losing. When he lost, it was like a big thing. It was like, oh my God, we're right back where we were with this guy. He's losing to The Miz. And I remember being disappointed in this match at the time as well. And rewatching it, I was pleasantly surprised. I actually liked it a lot better than I remember liking it at the time. Went 3.5 as well. The finish was really good. It's the beginning of a feud again, though, at a SummerSlam. It's the beginning. They're going to go multiple matches post SummerSlam. This should have been built to here, right? Like, instead of him screwing around with Cass and whatever, we haven't even had Miz on pay-per-view, right? He's messing with Cass. Hell no. Like, him and Miz should have had this match 3 pay-per-views ago, and then it should be the blow-off, and then get Daniel Bryan rocket shipped out of here. But as you'll see, we're not done yet with Bryan and Miz coming out of SummerSlam. That said, it's a very good match. I mean, it's borderline great, I guess, when you think of everything else in the season and show at 3.5. So kudos to them. We waste Finn Balor yet again on the show, defeating Baron Corbin. We get the friggin' demon to fight Corbin. Like, all right, it's fine. It's a big show. It's a demon. Like, what are we doing?
After he just beat him with a small package at the last show, though.
Like, why is this continuing? We can't do anything better with Finn Balor? Give me something. Or make this a 4-way with Bryan and Miz, maybe. Like, or so, you know what I mean? Like, maybe then you get a little something out of it. But I don't know. I went 2.5 again. Just replacement level of bullshit.
Yeah. More of the
It's
same.
a squash. I mean, it's basically a squash.
Yeah. Up next for the United States title, we have Jeff Hardy getting his return match against our new champion, Shinsuke Nakamura, who's going to retain. I went with a 3. It was cool to see what these guys could do with a little bit of time. Let me see how much time they get here. 11 minutes. So I thought this was exactly what it should have been, and I think 3 is a pretty good landing spot for this match.
Yep, 3 for me too. It's cool to see Hardy get a big title showcase singles match at SummerSlam. Nakamura's pretty strong year, rolls on, beats him with the Kinshasa. Orton comes out again. He teases attacking Hardy, but doesn't this time. So we'll see where that goes.
Orton gets a pay-per-view payday just walking around menacingly.
He's the king. All right, our semi-main sees Ronda Rousey challenge Alexa Bliss for the women's title on Raw. Natalya comes out first as a tribute to Jim the Anvil Neidhart because he had just passed away. So she's got the classic Neidhart jacket from SummerSlam 90. It's a pretty cool moment for her. Ronda ends up winning the title, beats Bliss to win. So she becomes the first woman in UFC to debut and win a world title in WWE. So that's a big moment. The Bella twins come out. They celebrate as well with Natalya to celebrate the big win over Alexa Bliss. I went 2. Wasn't that great. I mean, Bliss is serviceable in the ring, but not really at Ronda's level yet. But we talked about it. Like, this was the path when Bliss cashed in Money in the Bank, was to get her to be back to be like the dominant top heel to lose to Rousey.
JT, I have a question. Are you ready for a new Raw Women's Champion?
Yeah.
I went 2.25. I don't know. Like, I know they're trying to make Ronda Rousey WWE superstar and not Ronda Rousey the UFC star. But her being compared to Mike Tyson and both in WWE and in the media, like, you realize Mike Tyson go in there and there's a bet to see how quick the fight would end.
Right.
And
Ronda was for a bit though in UFC.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Ronda was for a bit in UFC, so why not translate that into WWE where she snaps that armbar on in a matter of
because they didn't want her
seconds.
to look that much dominant over there.
Exactly. So it's 4 minutes, and not like it overstayed its welcome, but it just could have been so much more effective in 2.5.
I just think Bliss is so limited. Like, I think getting the belt on Ronda was key because now you can start to transition her to maybe some bigger opponents, like start to bring out those Charlotte, Bayley, Becky type matches, Sasha. And we'll see if they get to it. But all right, main event time. Yes, it's your favorite main event. during this time frame, and that is Roman Reigns winning the Universal title from Brock Lesnar. Last episode, Marcus, I said he's dead in the water, but yet here we are. The big dog's back on top of the yard. Lesnar had done his whole teasing to leave thing, but he ends up coming back here. Reigns beats him for the belt, and I think it felt like maybe we're done with Brock for a bit after this, potentially with the whole rumors to UFC. Reigns wins the belt back. Kind of feels like a new era, perhaps. But yet again, like most stuff this year, this does not click. I went at 3. We are in full-on diminishing returns with these two guys. They fought at Mania. They fought at Greatest Royal Rumble. Fighting again here. It's like, all right, we're done with Brock and Reigns.
3.25 for me. I love Roman Reigns. I love Brock Lesnar. I'm done with this combination of characters, though.
For the next few years, Susan, they come back in 22 and 23, and
they're different characters at that point. So no, I'm more open to it. But yeah, this is again years after the fact of when Roman should have got the win over Brock. And they do it. I don't know if it's a cool angle. I don't know. They bring out Strowman, and Strowman says he's going to cash in on whoever wins, and that gets the crowd like super pumped. And then they do the thing where like Brock attacks Strowman outside, and then he chucks the briefcase, which is super cool, but then rolls right into the finish. So you're kind of like you're kind of like promising or tempting the audience both at home and then building with a super cool finish, and Braun's going to cash in, and all right, here we go. And
just a tease.
Just kind of get Roman winning, which again, I love Roman Reigns. I love Roman Reigns winning. I hope he never loses again as long as he wrestles. But once you bring that Money in the Bank out there, it's kind of tough to not deliver on
especially the end of the show. It's like,
yeah, and a big show again, SummerSlam.
Yeah. All right, that's a net match grade score though of 5.5, which is on the higher end of very, very good for this show. So solid in ring, but again, nothing touched a 4. It's SummerSlam. Look at that card, and nothing even sniffed. We had a couple 3.75s and not much else doing.
SummerSlammed out.
All right, baby. Let's get to our categories. For a build, we gave a point for Dean Ambrose returning. We didn't mention that, but he reunites the Shield to help feud with McIntyre and Ziggler. He's in Rollins' corner to start the show. A point for McIntyre and Ziggler winning the Raw titles on TV. A point for the very long Owens-Braun feud. Money in the Bank on the line. So, again, we've maligned the matches, but the build's been there. It's at least well built. A point for Becky Balboa, rising, dealing with Charlotte now as well as she tries to finally win the women's title. A point for the long-time build with Miz and Bryan, like you said. I mean, he goes back to 2010 with NXT and then talking smack in 2016 and on from there. A point for Hardy and Nakamura's feud built since Nakamura hit the low blow at the last pay-per-view. And a point for Rousey's march to the title culminating as Bliss tries to gatekeeper and she marches right through her. So a lot of pretty good build for this SummerSlam show.
Well, let's check out the minuses. We've got a lazy path for the New Day. There's a SmackDown tournament to determine the top contenders for the titles. We've got Joe attacking AJ and his family, the Wendy stuff, nonsense soap opera kind of stuff. And instead of playing on their history and legacy as rivals, again, TNA, the Indies, whatever, a whole bunch of stuff you could play off of there. And we get Reigns and Lesnar again. Once again, it's years after the fact.
Yep, it sure is. +4 for build. Commentary, we get a nice point that the Bludgeon Brothers haven't lost a match in 10 months. So kind of hyping up what this means. A point for a good job bringing up historical facts and dates throughout the night. I thought they were solid there. A point for Tom Phillips. We talked about it. He's just good. He's not screaming. He's not yelling. He's not yucking it up. He just calls a freaking wrestling match. Like, that's where we're at. And generally, that's replacement level. But you know what? For 2018, maybe it's above. It's above replacement level.
For our minuses, we've got Coach excited for Rousey's celebration to make the morning shows, quote, and he just says it out loud. Corey over the top, super annoying with his allegiance to Carmella for obvious reasons there. He's a real poor man, Heenan and Flair dynamic there with those two. Byron inconsistent with giving credit to the heels or being disgusted by their antics. And again, it's soundbite Byron as well. So -2. For soundbite Byron, we got Cole making the demon sound super corny. The demon cometh. The demon graces us with his presence. So embarrassing.
Yeah, I'm also with Heron Cole. Say the demon cometh. I don't need to hear that again. -2 for commentary, as on brand.
Want to be in a drop
Atmosphere.
zone with the demon?
Atmosphere, we gave a point for the Terry Crews narrated intro video, which is pretty cool. A point for the cool old school summer vibe too, with the set and the presentation. Just kind of summer in New York is a classic feel. A point for the mega pop for the Shield for Ambrose and Rollins being reunited. A point for New Day's entrance. A point for the crowd being just red hot for Becky's turn. A crowd for the point for the crowd being hot for Elias. We didn't talk about him, but he had a mid-show segment as usual. A point for the red hot Dana Bryan entrance, a point for the Demon entrance, a point for Nakamura's entrance, and then a point for all the great look and attire throughout the night with Owens, Charlotte, Becky, Carmella, Styles, all really up their game. Has some really cool looking gear tonight.
For our minuses, we've got the crowd being pissed for the Bludgeon Brothers match DQ. The crowd checked out for most of the the women's three-way match until we get there to the finish. It takes some steam out of the story as well. But they do end up going nuts for Becky, and instead they end up like cheering her instead of booing her, which I think was the obvious intentions there. Who's your daddy chant from the crowd and kills the intensity of AJ trying to beat on Joe. This thing's already fallen flat. Constable Corbin, the whole look is so lame. A lame chant. You both suck during our main event. More proofs that the big dog Roman Reigns.
It's Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar, and the crowd is saying you both suck. Like,
it feels like the low point of the show.
How did they get to this point as a company where you have Brock fucking Lesnar is like someone they're chanting you suck at him, like with Reigns? They were in the mud right now at this point. Like, man, like you always hear like Vince throws down the headset in your house 4. Like, how do you not leave the show and you're him and think like you're in a good? I guess you're just making money, but it's like, how do you not feel like you're in a tough spot creatively? Like, you come out of the show and your 2 top guys you built around. They've had 2 marquee matches this year. Mania ended in a shit show with Lesnar throwing the belt and the weird finish, and now this with the crowd saying you both suck and the stupid non-cash in. It's like, what are we doing? Like, these are your 2 top guys. +4 for Atmosphere. Notable moments, a point for the final Summerslam of the Brooklyn series. I mean, it's 4 years in a row in Brooklyn. This is the last one. A point for Rollins winning the IC title. A point for Charlotte winning the SmackDown Women's title. 2 points for Becky turning on Charlotte. It's a pretty big storyline point. A point for Natalya honoring the Anvil, wearing the SummerSlam coat. A point for Rousey winning the women's title for Raw. And a point for Reigns winning the Raw World title over Lesnar, even though they both suck.
Minuses, poor KO getting squashed. We got Bryan losing to Miz. Doesn't help the criticisms that Bryan should have tested the waters elsewhere in free agency.
All right, so that's a 6 for notable moments, 5.5 overall for match grades. Card structure, we gave a point for opening hot with the Shields and their super over and Ambrose's return. A point for continuing the year of AJ Styles' dream matches on paper. A point for Bryan and Miz giving a lot of time to tell their story. It had a lot of build. They did deserve that 24 minutes, and they got it. A point for Demon destroying Corbin. It was perfect use if they're going to have the match, have him wreck him. A point for Rousey destroying Bliss. No need for Bliss to be competitive. And a point for Braun teasing the cash in. That builds anticipation before the main event, not what happened after that. But before that was a cool moment.
Yep. Once again, we'll ding the lame DQ finish to the tag title match. Why bother with Owens in this feud if you're just going to keep squashing him, especially if he got tossed off the cage? I don't.
Right. And you're using Strowman later in the show anyway. Like, why even have him wrestle? Just have him come out after.
Yeah. Another title match DQ, not even halfway through the show. Styles Joe is a personal heated issue, but the match is all about keeping emotions in check, which I absolutely hate how they like. I'm watching wrestling. I don't want to like see somebody hold back.
Yeah.
I absolutely hate that that's like such a big point for them in so many instances. Wasting time by hyping Triple H and Undertaker more than 7 weeks away at I believe that's Super Showdown coming up.
Yeah, it's like, fine, you want to hype it, do it on TV. Like, we don't need to use SummerSlam time to hype this show 2 months away. Like, we'll get there. We don't need to do it right now.
And then our last deduction here is including Braun into the main event package, and you left the fans feeling deflated by not delivering on that.
Yep, that's a 0 flat out for card structure. Rewatchability, we gave a point for Rollins doing a great-looking inverted superplex, a point for the great finish to the women's three-way, where you go from a natural selection right into the disarmer. Oh, I'm sorry, to break the disarmer. A point for the B team standing up to Miz in backstage. B team's been our saviors. They say they have a new reality show, Total Fellas with a B, called Total Bellas. And he goes, it's better than Miz and Mers, which is a great line. And then a point for, like we talked about, the Miz Bryan finish with Maurice handing the Nux. So
Sneaky MVPs. Let's go ahead and check out the minuses for rewatchability. We got a awkward Bella Twins interview. We got Big E belly to bellies on the floor. Almost does to Harper what Rich Holland ends up
do to him.
executing on him just years later. So unfortunate to see there. And then Joe and AJ coming up lame with the DQ finish just when the match was starting to get cooking.
That's a +1 for rewatchability. I did want to give a shout out, by the way. Daniel Bryan during this time starts wearing the Seahawks colored gear, which looks really cool. We'll talk about it more in our next show, but it was neat looking. So +1 for rewatchability. No all-time matches for SummerSlam. That's pathetic. Sorry. That brings us to a total score of 18.5, which, I mean, it's pretty good for this season, honestly, but not that great when you look at all of our other SummerSlams. Like, it's, again, we've held SummerSlam pretty high regard, mostly. Let's see, 04 is below this one, and 94. That's it. Those are the only two SummerSlams worse than this one so far for us. Everything else has been better. As far as where it is all time, it's right below Survivor Series 11, right above TakeOver Brooklyn 4, which actually happened the night before this show. So that weekend ended up back-to-back, which is pretty funny for us. Brooklyn 4 at 17.75, SummerSlam at 18.5. It's our 41st show all time out of 97 total shows. So, yeah. Little around half or so, I guess.
Yeah, upper half. It felt right when you said the score. But yeah, definitely disappointing for a SummerSlam, which has been a pretty consistent top performer for us.
You could say they managed to, if you had to put a label on it, failed. All right. So, SummerSlam's in the books. We got one more show to cover here tonight. It is Hell in a Cell 2018. Marcus, I'm dying for a good show, buddy, this season. Could this do it? From the AT&T Center in San Antonio, 15,216, September 16th, 2018. Michael Cole, Corey Graves, and Renee Young on Raw. Tom Phillips texted and Corey Graves on SmackDown. The coach is gone. We'll see if it's an upgrade, though. I don't know. Poor Renee.
I like Miss Renee.
I love Renee. In the booth, Renee. We'll see. We had one pre-show match. A New Day defeated Rusev Day. That's Aiden English and Rusev to retain the SmackDown Tag Team titles. So that was on the pre-show, and that brings us to the card itself. And we start hot, my friend, with a Hell in a Cell match between Randy Orton and Jeff Hardy. And they get 25 minutes. I'd have to look back at everything after this, but I'm willing to say this is probably Jeff Hardy's last great singles match.
A singles match, yeah, probably his last great singles match.
This was awesome. I loved this. It's the one you remember with Orton just doing the nasty shit with the screwdriver through Hardy's gauge in his ear, where he puts in, just yanks on the earlobe. It's all pure sadistic Orton at his best. Hardy does a swanton on the chair, uses a ladder to climb the cell. Hardy does a splash through a table, but Orton moves. Orton pins him and wins the match. Orton's back as probably the best Orton, besides like cool marijuana smoking face Orton that we get these days, would be like sadistic heel Orton, and that's what he is here. I went 4. I think it's the best match we've seen all season to this point of the card. It's the first 4-star match I think we've had all season, which is crazy. We are now how many shows in? Let me check real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The beginning of our 6th show is the first time a match has broken 4 stars. Unacceptable in this era.
Yeah, for me, Hell in a Cell is a match that I think there's 2 possible stories to tell, and that's either cat and mouse or it's Godzilla versus Kong.
Mm-hmm.
And I think anytime you deviate from those two specific stories, that's where you get the cells that are really like forgotten for good reasons because they stink. This one was able to thread that needle though. I met you right there at the 4. I really enjoyed this. Flirted going 4.25. And credit to them for finding a way to be able to be sadistic and bring the hell back into the Hell in a Cell in this PG, super safe and risk-free and risk-adverse era. They were able to find ways to bring the brutality and be creative and make memorable stuff happen. So yeah, for all those reasons, this was really good and by far our best match of the season, no doubter there.
It took advantage of the time too, which we've seen a lot of matches get a lot of time this season that don't always take advantage, and they got 25 and it didn't drag. It was great. It's a classic match.
And yeah, you get the big spot too where Hardy does the off the cell and crashes to the table. I was looking forward to seeing that again. Up next, it is for the SmackDown Women's Championship. It is Charlotte, who is going to lose the title to Becky Becky Lynch. I went 4.25. Finally, it's like the gates have been opened after getting a 3 3/3 from me on the last show at SummerSlam in the triple threat match. I think I went 3 3/4, right? Yeah, I did. And then 4 stars with the Hardy and Orton cell. 4 1/4 for me here for this match.
Same. Great match. Great moment with Becky winning the belt. She's on the rise. They're getting behind her. The crowd's super into her. They delivered. Awesome match. Yes, after being starved all season, we get 2 4-star matches in a row. And then Marcus, guess what? We get a third. I was like, oh my God. The lid is off, buddy. As the Shield unsuccessfully challenges for the Raw Tag Team titles, losing to Drew McIntyre and Dolph Ziggler. It's Ambrose and Rollins. I went 4.5 in this bad boy. It's an awesome tag match. 25 minutes of chaos. These dudes perfected that tag style during the stretch. Start a little bit slow and then get hectic and frenetic and close out with an awesome stretch. This is that match I mentioned I saw at a house show at the Boston Garden a little bit after this. They were really running this around. A lot of Raw. They were mixing and matching these guys. They were having tons of great matches together. Ambrose, it was good to see him back in this role. This is a great match. I mean, so 4 1/4, 4.5 out of the gate on this show.
Yeah, I definitely won't be going back to watch these Raws anytime soon, but my memory, if it serves me correct, it's like these 4 guys would just routinely carry 40, 45 an hour worth of Raw every week out of 3 hours. I went 4.5 as well on this bad boy. Really good stuff. So we have 2 all-time back-to-back matches here. And we have Samoa Joe taking on. It should have been 4th. We got AJ Styles and Samoa Joe, not in a cell. It's just a regular match here. Right? No gimmick here. I don't think I'm mistaken there.
No gimmick. Yep. Straight
no
match.
Gimmick. Yep. Almost 20 minutes to go, 19 minutes, and AJ is going to pick up the win by pinfall. I went 3.5, and again, is AJ Styles like secretly the king of like the disappointing 3.5-star match? Because this has been a trend now.
It's been a tough season for him for getting a ton of time world title matches against like top, what you would think would be top workers. I think the problem is these guys are all probably just a year or two too late for these runs here, but still you'd expect them to maybe dial it back and pull something out of their hat. I still went 3 3/4. I mean, I think it's a borderline great match. But this is where we get the convoluted finish. Where yes, Styles pins Joe, but he's also tapping to the Coquina clutch at the same time. So we kind of get the Joe attacks AJ, feels like he didn't lose, so that'll set up again another rematch between them. So we get a little controversy between them here. All right, up next we have a mixed tag. That's Daniel Bryan and Brie Bella losing to the Miz and Maurice. So yet again, Bryan loses, and you can feel his frustration. Maurice pins Brie with a roll up. She's holding on to her tights. I think this is a good use of Brie. Like if you're gonna have the Bellas back around, leading up to a pretty big show that we're gonna cover soon on here too. You want them back in the kind of stratosphere. So this is a good way to use them. Miz and Maurice look amazing in their gear, and this an awesome it couple. Top of the line wrestling stuff between the two of them for sure. Hoorah! They. I feel like when you're in this moment in 2018, you're stressed about the way they're using Daniel Bryan. He's losing again to The Miz. But as we'll see in a future episode, like they do pay off this frustration for Bryan, and they do it well. So it's like the story, I don't know if they knew they were going that route or not. Maybe they backed into it, but at the time it's super frustrating and you're aggravated because you're like, this is one of the greatest of all time, and he's doing the stupid bullshit. But when it gets to where it gets, it's like, oh man, like I don't know if the story would have been as impactful if he hadn't been through everything he had been through in 2018. So we'll see that play out. But again, I went 3-7. I went 3.25 on this. So we're still in like very good territory on the show.
Yep, 3.25 for me. Maurice, that's a win any day in my book. Next up, it is Rowdy Ronda Rousey taking on Alexa Bliss in a return match for the Raw Women's Championship. Rousey's going to pick up the win, and I think she's more audible here once again with the, are you ready and stuff. You're going to have Natalya at ringside with Ron Rousey. You're going to have Alicia Fox and Mickie James at ringside to help bump around for Alexa Bliss. And this whole package goes 12 minutes. It's a lot of time. But I went 2.75.
Yeah, me too. I think that, it was obviously more time than SummerSlam. I think it's a little bit better than SummerSlam, obviously. I think it's good. Like, let's get Rousey out of this now. Like, let's get her to something else to be defending the women's title. Get Alexa into a different mix here. I want to see Rousey, what she can really do against some of the top of the class here. All right, main event, Roman Reigns versus Braun Strowman, a Hell in a Cell that goes 25 minutes. Mick Foley is the special ref. This was Strowman's Money in the Bank cash in. He did it straight up. He said, I'm going to cash in on pay-per-view. I want you in a cell. But we get a no contest, which I feel like should never be the case in Hell in a Cell, especially in this season where we've had all kinds of trouble. Brock Lesnar, though, comes out, kicks in the cell door. Heyman takes out Foley, and Lesnar beats up both guys and just leaves and kind of ends the match that way. So just we thought maybe Lesnar was on his way out. He's back in. And Reigns and Strowman, we've kind of been in this three-way cluster for most of the season with Strowman teasing to break through. And it reminds me a lot of like 2012 Ryback. Like that guy who's kind of ready to take that step, and he's a big dude, but they don't pull the trigger and they're going to kind of miss the window on him. I think Ryback had more potential than Strowman does in that role, but it felt similar to me when it's like right down to the Hell in a Cell, right? Where he was with Punk and Cena in that Hell in a Cell, and it felt like his moment. And they don't pull the trigger here. So Braun comes up short in his cash in. Brock is back. And are we going to be right back to Brock Reigns again? We'll see. But
2.5 for me. There's so many bells and whistles and tricks to this match where you have Foley as the special guest ref, and you already have the two behemoths of Roman Reigns and Braun Strowman colliding, and then you've got McIntyre and Ziggler and Rollins and Ambrose, and you've got them bumping around because you got the big guys down, and then you got them taking a big bump off the cell or off the side of the cell, and then you have Brock Lesnar running in with Heyman, and like you said, going back to SummerSlam, like that kind of felt like the tipping point of the booking for the main event is really bad. It's cooked, and we're seeing that here. Like they pulled out every trick they had just to get out of the situation they booked themselves into. And I don't like it's 2.5. It's replacement level. And you think if you did all that, you're like, oh my gosh, like all that stuff happened. Like it's got to be 4.25, right? It's got to be legendary stuff. But it's just stuff that happened.
2.75 for me. Worst match of the night, I guess, besides the Rousey match, which is disappointing because we started so hot with 3 great matches. Style Samoa Joe, very, very good. The mixed tag was good. And then we kind of sputtered at the end. But still a very great in-ring show. 7.75, Marcus, which is probably on the highest end of our in-ring match scores. It's up there probably with like the best NXT stuff that we've done. So one of the best in-ring shows on a match rate basis that we've done so far. Let's get to our categories, though. For build, we gave a point for Orton's slow burn heel turn, torturing Hardy into the cell. A point for Becky's march to the title. A point for Shield and Zigmac, just kind of roaring this feud all fall, building to this show. A point for Miz and Bryan that we talked about, the long-term rivalry since 2010, bringing the wives in. A point for Bliss coming back for her gold after SummerSlam, and a point for Strowman turning heel after the Shield cost him the title cash-in attempt. So he snapped. He's now, basically turned, said he's going to cash in a Reigns, put it in the cell. Misguided, perhaps, but we'll see.
Yeah, really good, clean and clear build. Our only minus is Samoa Joe and AJ Styles continuing to get like needlessly personal when you could just have these two, feud because they're all-time rivals.
All right, so that's a +5 for build. So that's good. That's a good build right there.
Yeah.
Commentary, Graves does a nice job explaining the finish of AJ and Joe. We said it was like the double tap pin. He explains it well. A point for the SmackDown team as well, switching the way they call Joe and AJ. It felt more like a big boxing or MMA fight through most of it, which is a good job. A point for Cole, doing a nice job announcing how the others that cashed in Money in the Bank ahead of time, how they've done, right, versus guys that surprise cash in. And then a point for Renee saying Dean looks like he wants a piece of this pie. So there you go.
All-time line by Renee. What a way to debut. For our minuses, we got Renee trying too hard to be too on point. You could feel like she's almost afraid to mess up.
Yeah, she's playing scared.
Too fast. Yeah, a lot of rambling, talking too fast, not being able to get her points across. And it's hard when you got Cole and Graves there ganging up on you. And Renee is stuck now in the soundbite role, much like soundbite Byron. And Renee channeling poor Susan St. James all night.
Oh no.
Oh, George.
No. So that ends up being like a 4 all in for Renee because we gave 2 for the rambling. So Renee sadly dragged down the commentary on this night. And I love the idea. They gave her the chance, like female in the booth. I loved it. I was all for it. She's great. Just struggles to get like comfortable. Like she just feels like uneasy at all times.
She would have been great. They just would have put her on SmackDown with like her and Tom Phillips and let them run and get rid of Graves and do Graves and Cole. Let them ruin Raw.
0 for commentary. Atmosphere, we give a point for the good demonic end times feel that they have throughout the show. A point for the red Hell in a Cell, which looks sick. It's a really cool looking structure. A point for Miz and Maurice with their matching superstar look. Just look amazing. It's a Hollywood it couple. Miz and Murs at their best. A point for the big pop for Mick Foley. A point for Brock's entrance. He gets a big pop and he rips the cell door off. And then a pop for Rollins and Ziggler with the big table bump in the main event.
For the minuses, we got the crowd being checked down on AJ and Joe. Do the style of match that they work, plus 3 back-to-back bangers. The terrible Brie Mode song that just kills.
Give me if you can look, you can't touch. That's the True Bella song.
Brie Mode.
Oh, I hate Brie Mode. I got because you can look, but you can't touch. It gets stuck in my head for like weeks at a time when I hear it, and I was ready for it. I'm like, all right, here we go, and then we get the stupid Brie Mode. It's way worse.
No. And the crowd is still cooked on Roman, even with the heel opponent and the Shield reuniting and Brock making the run in.
They gave him everything.
Yeah, nothing happening.
Nothing. That's a +3 for atmosphere. Notable moments: the classic moment of Orton with the screwdriver through Hardy's earring hole. A point for Becky winning the women's title. A point for AJ tapping during the pin to set up the gripe for Joe. A point for Brie returning to the ring for the first time in a few years. And a point for Braun cashing in Money in the Bank. And a point for Brock Lesnar returning to WWE.
For our minuses, we've got Bryan losing once again, and then Reigns needing a bunch of help. Just to stay alive. Shield coming out this time, Brock interference.
And not even winning.
Yeah.
So +3 for moments is low. So, I mean, it has such a good in-ring show, but it's really kind of lacking now in some of these other areas. We'll see if it carries it enough. Card structure, we give a point for starting off with a sadistic, hard-hitting Hell in a Cell. It's a lethal gimmick. Let's get it over as such. A point for the card being stacked out of the gate, 3 long, hard-hitting title matches. And a point for Foley. I always love when they break him out as the guest ref for the Cell. Really adds to the gravity of it.
Yeah. For the minuses, we got New Day. I think we can say that they're like officially stuck on the kickoff show at this point. Bliss dominating Rousey, kind of tough to buy in with how dominant Ronda had been and always presented. Always not a good sign when the best part of a match includes everyone except the guys in the match.
Yep.
Ending the show with 2 guys laid out in a non-finish.
Sucks. It was such a good show till that end. Fuck.
Yeah.
-1 for card structure. Rewatchability, a point for Hardy doing the swinging ceiling table bump, which is great. A point for the Orton screwdriver. A point for Becky's win and kind of peacocking as their celebration. A point for Miz and Maurice's pre-match promo and post-match celebration. Just they're so good. And a point for Rollins and Ziggler's table bump.
For the minuses, we've got Foley's terrible Chia Pet haircut. Foley not great as a ref. He even botches a 2 count, and the announcers have to not so smooth the cover. And Rousey and her little giant intimidation growl right before that's her, like her gear shift in a match. So
right.
But I think it falls pretty flat.
At least we don't have the Carmella screaming on the show. +2 for +2 for rewatchability, +2 for all-time matches. We had Charlotte and Becky and Shield and Zigmac. Hardy Orton just short of all time, so we're close to 3, which should be a lot. A great in-ring show, but the rest did not carry up its end of the bargain. We end with a 21.75, Marcus, which I would classify as very disappointing. And it might be one of those ones that you could say potentially broke our system a little bit. Like you watch this and you're like, that's a great pay-per-view. It should be represented as such, and it's going to end up tied for 32nd or tied for 32nd with UK Championship Tournament 18 night 1. Finishes it above it because it's got the best match of the two. But man, when you watch that show and all the matches, you're like, this is a great show. And then for us, it's, I mean, top third, I guess, from what we've watched, right? We've watched now 98 shows, and we had it at, what did I say, 32.
Yeah.
So top third, easy, but yeah, when you look at that in-ring, you expect it to be higher, but the back end fell apart. There's not a ton of big moments. It's kind of a tight card. The commentary sucks. The atmosphere was okay. So like that stuff is what carries shows for us.
Yeah, it's again start out super hot, looked super promising, but it just tails off after the tag title match. It's just a steady decline, and our match ratings reflect that as well. And then I think the main event really, barely being above replacement level.
Yes, that hurt.
That's super disappointing. A big indictment on the show.
Yeah, if you get a classic main event, it probably helps quite a bit.
Right. There's no reason you book these two big dudes. They shouldn't go out there and get you at least 4.
All right, it finished just below Survivor Series 04, just above Backlash 04. So it's kind of weird. It's above TakeOver Phoenix. Money in the Bank, which we talked about last episode, which we thought outperformed. This is only a point ahead of it, which is kind of crazy when you look at the in-ring. But like we said, we're about more than the in-ring here on this show for sure. All right, we'll be back in 2 weeks, Marcus, and you know what that means. We have another 2 shows from the season, but we'll also be hitting our 100th pay-per-view watched on our next show. So that's exciting. We'll do number 99 and number 100. So that'll be fun to talk about. We'll head overseas, and then we'll have a unique pay-per-view for number 100. I think it's actually kind of fitting what our 100th pay-per-view is going to be. So be sure to subscribe to everything here at North-South Connection, YouTube. Get all of our video content, podcast, get all of our audio content. Follow us on social media and stick with us. Leave any comments, any praise, any likes, any love. Share the word about the North-South Connection. Live your life above replacement level. We'll be back in a couple weeks and talk to you then.